You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about confronting the truth behind the mythology. I'm Frankie.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And today we have good friend of the pod, Josh Coslar, to help us explore the wilds of Havarl.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you back.
Folks may remember that Josh really started off our Blasto experience. He produced for us the Blasto holiday special. Insert localized holiday here.
Yeah.
So if you are wondering where we got the Blasto concept from, Josh really started it for us. So we owe all of that to him.
It is your fault. You let me play Blasto and I'm never going back.
Josh, can you talk a little bit about what you've been up to since the last time you were on the show?
Absolutely. So I'm still working in stage combat full-time, producing theatrical aluminum weapons under False Edge Armory. And these days I'm actually working on a show that's in development that is about guitar pedals turning into swordsmen in the dreams of children. Anyway, it's going to be great. It's about circuits and long swords. It's fine. It's a lot
Sounds
of fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Tron, but for people who grew up in the 70s and like fell into a different rabbit hole. Guitar pedals instead of arcade games.
Wow.
You're speaking my language. You're speaking my language.
Preaching to your very specific choir, as we like to say here on this show.
There's like 4 analog circuit junkies on Earth. It's nice to know that I know all of them. It's fine.
Well, that's awesome. Well, you'll have to come back and talk more about that once you have more to talk about. But it's awesome to have you back. You've become a staple on the show, and we're very excited that you're here and that you've chosen Havarl. Frankie, why don't we get into a summary and start talking about what we're here to talk about?
Heck yeah. Before we can get into Aya's vault, Ryder must prove themselves to be useful to the Resistance. First stop is Havarl to help some scientists who have been trapped in a stasis field by remnant technology, and learn more about Angaran beliefs from the cloistered sages. Ryder also meets the Rokar, a faction of Angaran extremists who strongly oppose any alien relations due to their trauma with the Ket. Can Ryder broker peace between 3 different factions of Angara?
I guess we'll find out.
Stay tuned!
Gee, a faction of a race breaking off because of one bad experience and then being racist to all other races?
Look, in their defense, the Ket are really bad.
That's true. You are not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, we are on Havarl. It was one of the 2 places we could choose to go, and so we are here, and I'm excited. But before we get into any of that, we should talk about our check-ins on the ship, because we have an opportunity to talk at length with our newest crew member, Jal.
Heck yeah.
And have a long conversation with him, and, like, navigate that relationship. We talked about this a bit in the last episode, but Jal is a little different from the other characters, whereas you can't just... There's no heart symbol to, like, flirt, like, with the other characters. There's, like, a companionship symbol, and you have to kind of become buddies first. And I think that's interesting that there are stages to that. I kind of wish they did it for all the characters, but I like that with Jal. You got to, like, become besties before you can even talk about being in any kind of relationship.
Yeah, he's very hesitant to trust you, which, as we said...
Look, as a human, I get it.
Given their experience with the Ket, can we blame them? I love Jal. I think he's great. He's very cautious with us, which is understandably. I really like this quote. He says, "It's about what kind of alien we are," because it's about what kind of alien the Ket are versus what kind of alien the Milky Way species are, right? We also find out that Jal was the Moshae student, and he was also a bad student, which I found very funny.
Yeah. You just kind of assume that Jal was, like, a good student. Because the way he carries himself, the way he talks to others, his interactions on Aya, I just assumed he was studious.
Like the best of the best.
Right. And it's clear. Look, I can relate to that, as I am smart, but I'm too smart for my own good, which means I was not always great in school. And so I relate.
Can't we all, though?
Yeah, I know.
As someone who skipped a lot of college classes to play with circuits, which is, I get the feeling what Jal did.
Yes, that's probably exactly what Jal did.
I cannot blame him. I too skipped history 101 through 408 to make other things.
Yeah, and that's another thing we learn about Jal is that he likes to take things apart and learn how they put back together. He likes to learn the essence of things. His own gun is a modified Ket sniper rifle that I think belonged to his father.
I think so.
It did, and I think it was referred to as the nicest one in the Resistance in the first 5 seconds we meet him.
Yes.
Correct.
What do I know about this man? He looks amazing, and that gun is great. Cool, that's enough.
That's all you need to
good.
know.
I'm in love, sold.
From him, we also learn that the Angara feel deeply and they have a harder time hiding their emotions than showing their emotions. Like, they are always going to be pretty obvious in how they feel. And Jal is trying very hard to be secretive with you, but he's like, this is hard. I don't like it.
I mean, it's when we meet the head of the Resistance in the last mission, like, he is very concerned for the plight that we went through and then becomes a hard ass about everything. But, like, his emotion of feeling bad for how we crash landed just came out. And I was like, oh, this seems like a flip. But now knowing this about the Ungarans, I'm like, oh, he gave into that emotion and then realized he's running a Resistance and has no time for pesky humans. So, like, that flip-flop makes a lot more sense now.
He also... Did you take the, like, increasing friendship thing? He says something like, there's something unique about you and somehow profound.
I was very complimented. I was like, oh, okay. Profound, you say. Sure.
Stop.
Not a word anyone has ever used to describe me in my entire life, but I'll take it.
Go on. Yeah, I love him. I think he's great. He's also very funny with idioms. He tries very hard to understand them, and he's just like, no.
It doesn't make any sense. You humans are weird. With
He's
your
like,
funny words.
I did not get too attached to Guardians of the Galaxy. What's that character? He's bad
Drax.
with metaphor. Yeah. It's like Drax.
Yeah, he is like Drax a little bit. Yeah.
I don't
Nothing
understand.
goes over my head. I am too quick. I would catch it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's what Jal is like.
As an autistic adult working in theater, I squeeze every sack of endorphins I can get out of those characters.
For sure. And Jal lets us know he is not very good at being cautious.
Yeah, that much I kind of figured out already, but...
How relatable. What do you think of Jal?
I mean, I like him so far. I said that in the last episode. I think he's an interesting character. I think he fits the specific criteria of handsome and goofy, as some of my favorite characters are. It's funny, too, because at first, like, it was very easy to go in assuming Vetra was just a femme Garrus, but she's not. This character, Jal, is a lot more Garrus adjacent, I would say. Very kind of very serious and like one of the best at what he does, but also kind of a complete goofball behind the scenes. And I like that it's driven by his emotion, whereas with Garrus, it was more driven by his anxiety and just general awkwardness. He was kind of a nerd also, but in a different way. But this is purely like emotionally driven, I think, for Jal.
Jal is much softer than Garrus.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, Garrus is more sarcastic, and
Yeah.
Jal is more like, I'm a silly, goofy guy.
Yeah. But as a character, I like him. I think it's going to take... is he one of my favorites already? Sure. I mean, like, half the cast are my favorites right now, so it's hard. Like, I don't think anyone's going to top Drac for me just because I love a Krogan, which is no secret to anyone.
I love my grandpa.
Like, I had a lizard... We made the revelation that we are the lizard son now.
I am the lizard son.
So, like, we are his lizard son now, and he's looking after us. But I do like Jal, and I'm interested to see how his story shifts because I feel like there's more to him than what I'm seeing so far. And not in a dishonest way, just in a more there's going to be character evolution kind of way.
Yes. Gil invites us to play poker with him.
Yep, and I politely decline.
Really?
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah, I politely decline. Not the gambling type.
Not even with a superpowered AI in your head that could help you win?
I mean, that's cheating, and I wouldn't do that.
God.
That's not cheating. That's creative winning.
Josh and I are the same.
Yes, I gather that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I accepted his invitation, like, heck yeah, let's go play poker, dude. I'll probably lose, but hey, it's bonding. PB did not like the Archon.
No, yeah.
Neither did Cora.
Nope. We also catch Liam and Lexi talking a little bit about Jal and what they think of him, kind of having just a more general conversation about what they think, and the Ungarans as a whole.
Yeah, that's something that Andromeda, like, continued from Mass Effect 3, is all of these kind of ancillary conversations, making the world feel like it continues moving when Ryder isn't in the room, which I appreciate.
Yeah, because even Vetra and Drac have, they chat about their first contact with humans and, like, what that was like, kind of trading more stories. It's so good. And then I like that after that you can talk to Drac and, like, and then he's like, well, what else do you want to know? And you can just ask him for war stories, and they seem endless. Like, he's just got story after story. I stopped after, like, going 3 or 4 deep because I'm like, I feel like this could go for a while and I got shit to do. I'll come back.
Something that Drac says to Vetra is, I remember thinking, they're bold for being so squishy. Do they know they're mostly water?
So good.
Like, he says the best stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Krogans always have the best lines. Pretty much generally in Mass Effect.
I love the implication that Krogans are not mostly water.
Yeah, that too.
Well, they're not.
Sure, and like we understand that from a lore perspective, but really think about what that might do to your personality if most creatures are mostly water and you are not. No wonder they're so grouchy at literally everything.
It's true.
They're not hydrated enough.
Or they just don't have to be. Like, what do you mean you need water? You've had water 3 times today. What are you going to pour yourself into a cup? Relax.
Pretty much, yeah.
Also on the message board, we get one of my favorite Liam quotes, which is, adjectived verbing nouns. Because Liam is mad that Gil woke them up so early, and the message board won't let him curse.
It's true.
It's very good.
It's true.
Matt, did you notice, I'm sure Josh noticed, did you notice the Plant vs. Zombies plushes in the bunk?
I didn't.
Josh, who do you think those belong to?
They belong to Liam, who's probably obsessed with vintage video games like he is obsessed with vintage cars.
See, I think they belong to Suvi.
Oh, I could see that too.
I can't see Suvi bringing something like that as a souvenir. I think Liam is the one by, I don't want to spoil anything for Matt. I don't know what conversations he's had. But Liam loves his souvenirs.
No, yeah. I mean, he brought a whole couch onto the damn ship. So, like...
Yeah, there you go.
I'm inclined to agree with Josh, only also because Plants vs. Zombie is not a game about herbalism in any way or death and decay. It's about cartoon zombies fighting cartoon plants. Like, there's a walnut that explodes, so I think that's more in Liam's vein.
I feel like Suvi would appreciate it. And also, I feel like she would like plushies.
I mean, liking plushies I get, but
Yeah,
those specifically. I mean, the real reason they're there is because both games are published by EA, but that's neither here nor there.
I like the implication that it's not just that this is a vintage game, that in fact, maybe in this far-off future, we're in Plants and Zombies 38 or whatever it is.
Or they've done Garden Warfare 28, and now they're like the first-person shooter game spin-off has a spin-off. Like, who knows?
Speaking to Liam, he has an idea.
Yeah, we get the Quest movie night, which we're not going to do this mission, but we get the start of, where Liam has this idea that one of the things that brings crews together in his experience is a movie night, especially bad movie nights, where you just watch a bad movie and, like, have fun and chat and all that stuff. And, like, I'm of two minds about this. Like, I want to believe certain things have carried over from our time to the future, right? But, like, I like bad movie night does seem kind of universal, but still it just very much feels in the moment, because it's also another human offering. It feels very much, here's a thing that happens now that we're assuming still happens. Here, we're going to put it in the game.
I think bad movie night is still going to be a thing, no matter how far in the future we go.
I agree. It just felt, again, because it was a human offering to another human, it just felt very, here's the thing, haha, funny reference.
I think that it could be like a human-centric reference.
True.
Like, I feel like if you say it to maybe Peebee, she'll be like, why?
Yeah.
But she'd be down because she'd be like, okay, sounds weird, but I'm in. Like, I feel like it's very possible it's still human-centric, but I think that it would last no matter what. Like, I think it would be something that humans still do.
I mean, we know from the previous games that Tally loves guilty pleasure media.
It's true.
So I got to
That's
assume
true.
that some things are universal, right? That every species has their dumb shit they put on at 3 a.m.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. I guess for me, it's just, the Mass Effect games, like a lot of other games, sometimes do reference for the sake of reference.
Mm-hmm. And that does happen. I agree. I don't think this is one of them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it pulled me out for a moment, but Liam's puppy dog charm kind of just pulls you back in. It's kind of impossible not for it. It's funny, like, I just feel like now I feel like that moment that stood out in the very first mission that I didn't like is an anomaly and not the baseline for Liam, and that's fine. But I also feels like a plot hole. I hope something extreme emotionally like that happens to him again later, only because then it would feel like a through line. But I guess we'll see.
For your reference, Josh, Matt is referring to when he continued to fire his gun into an already dead cat.
I caught that and understood that, and in respect of spoilers, I'm now keeping my mouth shut.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Also, Liam wants us to put a stamp on a project.
Yeah, okay.
Which is something else. I do want to tell you, Matt, the movie night mission is a multi-step fetch quest.
Ugh. Bleh.
So it's not going to end with get the movies, because after you get the movies, you have to get something else, and then you have to get something else, and so on and so forth.
So it's something we're going to talk about at the end of the season with a bunch of other side quests.
Towards the end.
Towards the end, okay.
But, like, you should do the steps.
I should do
as
them,
you
but we're
can.
not going to check in on them every time we do them, probably.
Right.
Okay, fair.
Because it will culminate in one big thing that we'll talk about at the end.
Okay, fair enough.
Cool. Also, a note to you, the project that Liam wants your stamp on, it's something that has to be done in research and development. Do it
Okay.
for our next episode.
Okay, I'll do that.
Because that way we can be on the same page with the conversation that happens afterwards.
That's fine. You'll probably have to remind me when I ask you what I need to do. But
I will. Okay. Let's see. We find out from Suvi that there's some extra mass on the ship.
yeah, that's creepy. That's just like there's an extra person's worth of mass on the ship. Okay. I'm never going to sleep again. Especially imagine being a femme rider and hearing that. Like
Yeah.
that's horrifying. Like even as a male, like gender has nothing to do with feeling threatened in that way, but like typically femme presenting people feel more threatened in those kind of mysterious situations. Like this is how horror movies start. It's like,
It's true.
and then Frankie told me, but we're not going to resolve that mission right now. And I'm like,
No.
so I have to live with this this mystery?
You'll do it next episode. It'll be fine.
Okay, fair enough.
It is a great, like, I love that small sequence.
It's good.
I think it's a beautiful touch of art by the team.
All right.
It's good. You'll be happy. Don't worry. It's
enough.
not that bad.
Okay.
Conversation with Callow. He and Sam are planning star charts so other pilots can find their way through the Scourge.
Yeah, it's I love how much Callow like is both a gossip and a geek. Like
I love him.
typically someone's one or the other, but he is absolutely both, and I kind of really love it.
And also, Gil and Callow keep arguing.
Every time, it's fine. They'll
Every
just get married. It's fine. They should just get married.
I do love the number of geeks on this cast, right? Like, it
Yeah.
feels like everybody's a little bit of a geek on this ship, which
I
makes
feel
sense.
like you
'cause
have to be.
Explorers
Yeah.
and something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, because the Normandy was a military ship. It was meant like it's this conversation I keep coming back to in other episodes, Josh, that you haven't been on, where like this is more Star Trek, whereas the original trilogy is more Star Wars. And
Yeah,
they both have a bit of both, but like this is about exploration, and so that's inherently geekier. I got to briefly talk about this on an episode of Autographs with Aaron McDonald, who is a previous guest of this show and will be on later this season. because she actually consults on all the new Star Trek shows. And I made that comparison of Andromeda being more like Star Trek, and she's like, absolutely. It's about exploration and research first, and then combat second. And so, like, to have that kind of like, I feel like everyone in Star Trek is a nerd. That's kind of why, like, a show like Lower Decks is funny, because one of the main characters is a nerd and the other one is the action fighty type, and they constantly butt heads, and that's where the comedy is inherent. And yeah, I just love how overly geeky even Drac is a geek about.
He loves his guns.
He loves his guns and his ways to fight.
And he loves his child.
His child, yeah. True.
That's it.
Proud grandpa.
He's so good. And that's it for conversations that I have.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll move on to the deep dive portion where we go help some scientists.
Any comments before we do?
No, I'm good.
All right, Peanut Gallery, let's move forward.
So I love the landing sequence on Havarl, although my first reaction was, oh God, Reapers! Because there's these weird giant space lobsters that don't really look like Reapers.
They're not space lobsters, they're space whales.
They're space whales, but they look lobstery, and so like anything of that shape, I'm just like, oh God, machines, I'm gonna die. But thankfully they're not. They're pretty majestic, though. That whole scene where you're, like, flying through the clouds and you see them all together, like, it was really cool. I love how this game already has focused so much on the life on these planets as you go to them. It's rarely ever a barren lava planet that you just explore and there's no creatures. Like, there's creatures everywhere in this game, and I love that. Most of the enemies you fight on the planet are creatures as much as other, like, bipedal beings, and I love that too.
Yeah, it's not sterile. Like, this is a world that has grown and evolved without you. It has nothing to do with you. It's gonna be like this with or without you.
Yep.
You know, these creatures do not exist necessarily for you to fight. They exist because they live in this environment.
Yep. And they're hostile because you're touching their shit.
Yes, understandably so.
Yes.
We land at Dar Palev, and we see these beautiful space whales. I love them so much. And Havarl is just this lush and verdant and completely wild place. You can't even use the Nomad here.
Nope. There's just trees, bushes, grass, and like plant life of all kinds everywhere. And like, this is where you first really get to dig in on some of the scientist missions you have from back on from the space station, where you have to find rocks and find plant life and stuff. And there's a ton of it here. Like, I spent a good 20 minutes to a half hour just running from point A to point B to point C, just picking up all the plants and stuff. I could have done the other missions too, but I was like, ooh, like kind of James Woods Family Guy. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Except it's, ooh, piece of planet. Ooh, piece of planet. Anyway.
It's a very fantastical setting.
It is.
Who did you bring with you?
I brought Jal, obviously, because how could I not? And it was tough for me to decide who to pick as the other person, just because, like, I really like the combination of characters that are available, but I ended up bringing Vetra.
I also brought Jal and Vetra.
Interesting. I almost brought Drac, and then I was like, I'd rather bring Vetra.
A good choice, as we later find out.
Yes.
We meet the head scientist, Kieran Dells, who does not like you.
No, no one in this room really likes us, because we also meet Luge, who I just wrote down rude historian person.
You mean John? You mean my husband?
Yeah, he's in the game, curmudgeon and all.
Oof.
When John and I were playing this for the first time, and I interacted with this character, John was like, "Man, what a dick!" And then he revealed himself to be a historian. He's like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Nobody hates the attitude of professional historians more than professional historians, but they all keep behaving that way, so...
It is what it is. But yeah, we find out that they need some help here. A group of scientists had gone to explore something and never came back, and they're believed to... Well, they're not sure what happened. They just kind of disappeared.
Can I say I really love this idiom that she uses? In an ocean of fish, one will be bound to have gems in its mouth sooner or later.
And I was just like, excuse me? Come again?
But it was so clear. It definitely made sense.
It does.
I was just like...
But my writer had this moment of, wait, are we talking... are we talking about fish? What happened? Like, this moment of like, oh, okay, I see.
But it was such a good metaphor. I love it. I'm going to memorize it. I'm going to start using it.
It's such a classy version of Broken Clock is Right Twice a Day. Like, it's so...
it sounds so much fancier.
It just sounds so much better.
And meaner. Like, there's so many more syllables. The more syllables in an insult, the more energy you're putting into it. It's a really direct correlation to how much of an ass you feel like being.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. Also, we find out that there's an advisory about Ryder.
Yeah, which is like, yeah,
Which
like they sent out a message.
way.
Be on the watch for this human jackass who showed up to a conversation in his pajamas, because I did.
Either shoot them or don't shoot them. That's your choice.
It's like, gee, thanks.
And yeah, we meet Rochelle, who is researching Angara history. Oh no. Rochelle is researching Angara history and needs to get her data back. She gives us a mission to go visit her home and try and recover it.
Yep. I really love that mission when we get to it, because I did the whole run of it.
You did all of Havarl?
Oh, no, I just did that mission. I didn't do everything.
The historian wants off of Havarl. We were talking about him being grumpy. The thing with him that kind of annoys me is nothing ever comes from him.
Well, and also when you're talking to him, he's like, I don't want to be here and I'm annoyed about it. And you can kind of sort of offer stuff. And he's just like, no, I just want to be mad about it. I'm like, well, all right, I guess fuck you. I don't know. Like, do something about your situation.
He really does not like the wilderness.
No.
And I'm like, okay, fair, but like, I don't die mad about it, I guess. And also, this is where we learn about the Rokar, an anti-alien Angara group. They're kind of everywhere, all over Havarl.
I feel like we just kind of keep fighting them everywhere. And like, nothing initially comes of that. Eventually, we do interact with them more closely, but in the beginning, it's just kind of like they're more fodder for gunplay, which was irritating.
I just want to skip ahead to finding the scientists, because there's really not much that happens between getting the mission to find them and then finding them.
Unless you're me. And then you find lots of nickel. Like, if I used the saying, if I had a nickel, because I have so much nickel right now. So much nickel.
That's right. 30 hours into this playthrough, you'll be grateful for every single ounce of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had those nickels in a backpack, then I would be the Nickelback.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're fired from this podcast.
You can't fire me.
Thank you for having me on, guys. Goodbye. It's been great.
You can't fire me. I edit the show.
You're fired. I will find a new co-host. Josh, would you like to apply?
No.
I'm
Smart answer.
Insulted.
Smart answer.
A little insulted.
That seems like a lot of work.
I mean, it is. Especially since this one is going out in the shortest turnaround time, I think, ever for an episode that we've done. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, when we find the scientists, they are frozen in like a stasis field. And let me tell you, this is one of my secret nightmares, my not-so-secret nightmares. Because, like, and actually, I never thought we'd tie anything to the MCU. But, like, I don't want to spoil anything for a recent show, but there is a show where they show what it's like from the perspective of someone who's been snapped in the snap, and that is so brilliant to me because it's perceived as like a stasis, and it moves within a blink of an eye. And when we release these scientists, it's the same thing. Like, they act as if no time has passed, because to them,
no time has passed.
Right, but they just didn't. They were unaware, and it's really interesting. And the I can't remember the name of the Angaran we speak to, but like, he's really shaken by it. He's like, he talks to us like we're out of our minds. Like, what do you mean? I've only been here a few minutes. What are you talking about?
Honestly, it's what we find out later that happens to an Angara in history that freaks me out even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a quick conversation. They don't remember being frozen. They return back. You gotta love fast travel, because I didn't even have to fight my way back. I was just like, bloop, haha.
Guess what? I found him.
And we're back. But yeah, they tell us about the gray spiky aliens that they saw, who were not Ket.
Yeah.
So they possibly found the Turians, and Jal thinks that helping the scientists is enough to prove our worth as an asset to Ephra. And I'm like, really? That's it? I literally did nothing.
We literally pressed a button. Several buttons, maybe.
That's it.
I solved the Sudoku puzzle and shot like 50 people. What do you want?
By the way, now at this point, I can safely say I hate these puzzles. Like before, I was just like, oh, I just maybe don't understand them. No, I've had to look up a walkthrough every time. I can't figure them out. I just hate
Sudoku.
them. I know, and I hate Sudoku, so it tracks.
You know what I did when I first played this game?
What's that?
I assigned numbers to the symbols, and I wrote them out. Because for some reason I couldn't figure it out on screen. I had to see it on paper and I had to be able to write it. So I assigned numbers to the symbols and I turned them into like number Sudokus. And I solved them on paper and then I put the symbols into the correct places based on what I solved. Which is a very roundabout way to do it. But for some reason, I just couldn't connect it looking at it on the screen. Now I can do it. But the first time, I was just like, no, I have to write all of this out.
I just buy as many of those cheater keys as I possibly can.
I mean, that's what I'm going to do now.
Like a third of this galactic economy into not playing Sudoku.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm going to do going forward.
I really do embody Sarah Ryder because Sarah fucking loves puzzles. She's like, this is my shit. And Matt, you really do embody Scott, who's just like, I don't have time for this.
I think the second monolith in that first mission, the PB, whatever planet we were on with PB, like, I think Scott audibly goes, another one? I don't have time for this. Like, yes, I agree. I'm going to buy cheater codes. Look, I am a big proponent. If you need a walkthrough in life, nothing wrong with it. And this is my walkthrough in the galaxy. I don't care.
It'd be like that. You just want to have fun. Nobody cares.
Exactly.
We find out that Havarl is declining. It is actually a dying planet, even though it's filled with so much life. And that's because 2/3 of the monoliths are active, but one has been lost to time.
Yep. And I love that at this point, like when we've gone back and talked to the researchers, that Jal is like, okay, we're good. Let's get out of here. And I'm like, but what about the thing we came for? The vault? The monolith? Any of that? Which we press on and we find out that apparently there is a group of high sages that kind of govern over this planet and have made the decision to just let the planet die.
They don't govern over shit.
Yeah, I know.
First of all.
They're like the old sages that everyone like they decide what happens, but yeah, they don't govern over shit.
No, they don't even decide what happens. They just keep history to themselves.
That's true.
And they're just like, no, go away.
If the Jedi Council was entirely on Reddit.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. That might be the title of this episode.
That is not the title of this episode.
Okay, all right.
Maybe the next t-shirt you guys make.
That can be a t-shirt, that's fine.
Yeah. My
problem with Havarl is that it is so cluttered.
Yeah.
And it's just such a completely different experience from the other planets. Like, no other planet is like this. All the other planets are spread out. And, like, there's room to breathe and drive. Havarl, none.
Yeah, see, for me, I was just like, ooh, I can find all the things within a hop, skip, and a jump. Great. Let's get all these quests done. All the waypoints are so close together.
But the cool thing is that there's a lot of hidden puzzles and, like, just cool tech around.
Mm-hmm.
Which we see as we climb up this tower to visit the sages.
Yep. Which, like, I didn't know my ass from my elbow at one point. Like, I was going up, and then the waypoint... Because as you go in the floaty elevators, sometimes the waypoint, like, doesn't shift right away, and so I would get confused. Also, there was a floaty bridge this time. Same tech, but horizontally. Which would be way more scary for me, I think.
You think it's scarier to just go in a straight line than to plummet down into the darkness?
I don't know. It all terrifies me because I'm afraid of heights. So
that's very fair.
But I wrote in my notes in big letters, "Floaty bridge," because that's what it was.
Well, honestly, this planet is a nightmare to traverse if you do not hit your fast travel points.
Yep. Which I did every time I got close to one. I was like, let me get that. Let me get that. Let me grab that.
Did you make sure to get the one at the top of the Sage's Tower?
I almost didn't. I got halfway back, and then I was like, oh, shit. And then I went back and got it, because I saw it on the map. My
very first time playing, I missed it. I had to climb the tower again.
Oh, no.
It's sucked so bad. It was the worst. Couldn't find the entrance again. I'm like, how did I find this in the first place? What the fuck?
It's very confusing.
Oh man. Fly me to the vault. Anyway. Conversation with Jal as we're doing our platformer yields a line, isn't a story worthless if it isn't shared. That's his point of view about the sages. And bless you, Jal. I appreciate you so much.
He's right. I mean, every race that we've encountered that hoards something, it doesn't really go well, whether it's tech or knowledge or whatever. And so I agree completely. And like when we finally meet the sages, they're just so full of themselves.
Of course
we don't even really talk to them. We talk to like a representative.
Before we talk to them though, I want to ask Josh, because Josh, you were so much more experienced in like building things and designing things, and I'm curious what you think about the weird hexagonal bridges that are just like stacks of rods that have like no railings or anything. They're just weirdly shaped. It's not a flat like walk across it. Just curious what you think about it.
So, and I'm going to get into this a little more when we talk about the tech, but I don't think that what we use the technology for is what the technology is for, right?
Oh.
So I don't think that those weird stacks of rods that become bridges are bridges. They could be some sort of weird mechanical fiber optic connection or whatever.
Oh.
We just happen to be dumb cavemen that cross the thing that's connected to the other thing.
That makes more sense.
And
I'm a dumb cave person.
That does work into the thing. We're going to cover that at the end of the deep dive. But like, my gist with that is, just because that's what we use it as, does not mean that is what it was built for.
That's fair. That's completely fair. You're so much smarter than I am about that, because I was just like, this is clearly a bridge.
I mean, what else?
It's just a bad bridge.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We are cavemen fumbling in the dark, especially in this game. Especially.
When you finally got to the top and the sages were like, how did you do that? Did you take the Elle Woods route?
The Elle Woods route?
What, like it's hard?
Oh. I did not.
That's what I did.
I was more literal, I think. I was just like, oh, we just climbed. You know, it's not that hard.
Yeah,
You
like
put
it's hard.
one foot in front of the other. I got 2 more days of Christmas if I'm Catholic. It's fine.
Exactly.
I wrote here, Jal is so passionate, but I don't know why I wrote that.
Just tell him the truth.
It's true.
I mean, it's true. I'm guessing it's in relation to the conversation about the sages and finding the vault. But we do when we get to the top and we talk to the sages, we get a little lesson in their version of reincarnation.
Mm-hmm. The unbroken thread.
And that apparently, if you have memories and you die, you're your not ancestor, but the opposite of it. Descendants will get those memories, but they don't necessarily always know they have them, which is weird to me. It's like generational amnesia almost ish.
So the Angaran version of reincarnation, it stays within bloodlines.
Yeah.
And that there are artifacts that can trigger the memories.
Right.
And I'm sure, Josh, you have so much to say about this. Because we find out that Zorai, an ancient Angaran, had an artifact that was lost in one of the structures, and that there is a descendant of Zorai who will have the memories needed in order to find and fix the monolith.
Yeah.
And when we do get this artifact and bring it to, what's his name? Tovar? Is that his name?
I believe it's Tovar.
That's what my notes
the head
say.
of the...
Tavos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
His name is Tavos.
Tavos, yeah.
When Tavos puts it on, it gives him like a shock.
Yeah.
And he starts to receive these memories. Now, the question is, are the memories stored in the gauntlet? Or is the Angaran view of the unbroken thread what's happening here? Like, are the memories in Tavos?
It's unclear, right? And what's really interesting is, so like we were talking about the Rokar earlier, like this character is essentially the head of the Rokar for this area. I don't think overall, but I think
he's like their captain. He's not the leader of the Rokar, period.
But he's a leader of the Rokar here.
Yeah.
And like he's completely against, like, the minute you find him, he thinks you're going to kill him. He doesn't want to help. And then you give him this gauntlet, and it's like, it breaks him almost. Like, it shocks him. And I think it's tech being masked as religion, but it's hard to say, right? Because we don't know. We know we give him this thing, and then he remembers.
Yeah.
And in our world, in our life, especially dealing with folks who have lost their memory or forgotten things, seeing something, like I've picked up an old photo and had a brain blast of like memories that I hadn't thought about in decades. And that's not that different from this. So I'm copping out and saying it could be either. But I'm guessing that in this experience, because they are such a tech savvy group, that it's tech related and not religious. But it's hard because like the scientists on the ground would probably say tech, but the sages would probably say religious. It's like, it's definitely not made clear, at least in this moment.
No, for sure. I'm inclined to think tech as well. Like, I think there are a lot of things that the Angara don't understand about their own history. And their mythology has evolved from the truth. Like all mythology, right?
Right.
There is a kernel of truth in every story that we tell. And I think that this concept of the unbroken thread has to do with DNA markers. I think it has to do with their like bioelectrics. Josh, I feel like you're chomping at the bit to like say so many things about it.
I am gonna wait until after we talk about activating the monolith. I have a time slot carved out. You gave me a bullet point in the outline. I went through kindergarten. I can wait my turn. The nice people listening already heard me talk about analog circuits like 4 different ways. They know who I am. It's okay. I'm ready.
Well, let's speed through the end so Josh can give his lesson on it, because I'm very excited for that. I feel really bad killing the Rokar. Can I tell you that?
Oh, yeah. Same.
Like, it's really hard to seem like an ally when I'm killing Angara, even if they're Angara who are trying to kill me first.
Sure. I mean, I think if Mass Effect has done anything well, better than any other science fiction game, has taught you that your enemy may not actually be your enemy, a la the Geth. And so, like, this clearly is a difference of opinion and a fear-based thing, in not unlike the riots back on the space station, too, right? Like, they aren't inherently evil. They were desperate and unhappy, and things break, right? We can agree that killing on either side is probably wrong, but also when you're scared, or, you know, when you're scared and your people are dying, you will, I assume, because I've not experienced personally, act in some extreme ways. So I'm with you. I think I don't love killing anything that's not a robot at this point. And even then, like I said, death.
I just would love an option to, like, try and talk to certain groups before it devolves into having to fight them.
Yeah.
Like, being ambushed by Rokar and defending yourselves, yes, okay. But this mission where I am specifically trying to seek out this person, Tavos, who is a leader of a Rokar group, I should have the opportunity to, like, broker some kind of truce here, because we're both interested in the same thing, which is healing his planet, right? But we don't get that, and Tavos is like, "You're not gonna take me!"
Yeah.
But it does work out. Tavos puts on the thing, he believes us, he remembers where the monolith is, he leads us there. Some interesting things we find out is that Zorai was believed to be a man, but Zorai was a woman. Mm-hmm. Which you'll love to see it.
Yep.
We also find out that Zerai made the machine stop and watch the Watchers. She was in a stasis field, but she was able to still perceive. See, that's the thing that freaks me out.
That is terrifying, yeah.
Being in a stasis, but still being able to see everything around me. That's terrifying.
That's exactly what the collectors did, right? Like, we saw the humans' eyes could move.
Yes.
But they couldn't do anything. Yeah, terrifying.
Hate it so much. She didn't complete her mission, but she didn't fail. And then we bring everyone together. Everybody is friends now.
Yep. We get the monolith online and save the planet.
I think we even get like a 90s sitcom zoom out after everyone's happy and talking. It was really wonderful.
A couple of final quotes. The Rokar wants simple solutions. Kieran refuses to believe that it's reincarnation and says, truth buried in our superstitions.
Yeah.
Josh, go.
Okay. Here we go. So I'm going to have to flash back to Eos for a second to sort of prepare my
set the scene.
Statement. We see this liquid that we see in all of the vaults eventually, right? There's this weird electromagnetic liquid that Ryder says, oh, it kind of reads like Omnigel. All right, so here's what we know about this stuff. We know it can vary in temperature. We know it can vary in electrical charge. And because it's a liquid, we know it can vary in pressure, right? So think about something that is both plumbing and circuitry and computing at the same time, right? Like the water pressure, quote unquote, is a variable you control. And that can control bandwidth, right? But it can also be a factor. It can move a valve. At the same time, you got electrical pulse. It's basically a capacitor or a transformer, depending on how the circuit's constructed. And also, it's got its temperature as a controllable variable. This is interesting because that, combined with this weird electrical thing the Angara have, gives us the idea of an entirely analog computer, right? A computer that can do math, can solve problems, can run a program, but is based on essentially plumbing and analog circuitry. It is the world's most complicated guitar pedal strapped to a toilet. And thinking about that has been really wild to me, because I think the answer to is it tech or is it religion, which really boils down to is it tech or is it biology, is both. So hypothetically, right, we've got this tech interface based around these different variables that can be controlled. What is to say, right, that when a person has a child, an Angara has a kid, they pass data in the form of analog electrical storage into capacitors, into that kid, and hereditary, that data is passed all the way. And then, when you reach into that tech feels the old electrical impulse, right? The old fingerprint, essentially. And then, bam, accesses that data. So that's my theory on how that works. And it's really interesting to me, and I don't want to spoil anything too much because we're going to find out more about this stuff, and I'm so excited to hear about what Matt thinks about it later on. But the idea that they control this electrical impulse, and assuming, right, they can put pressure with their hands, right? We know that they control their own temperatures, right? We know that they can raise and lower their body temperature to survive. They can control those same variables that fluid is controlled by to do the thing within that technology, electromagnetic pressure and temperature. So I think this is a chicken and egg thing, right? Did they evolve to meet the technology that they were creating, or did they build the technology around them? Who knows until you play the rest of the game. But the idea of analog computers that interact with your own analog circuitry in parallel is super fascinating to me. Because it's like the idea of a redstone computer in Minecraft, right? It is an analog computer. They are physical switches or simulations thereof. But rather than one variable, which is what redstone's got, on and off, you've got three variables, and the person using the machine can put out those three kinds of variables. That's pretty wild. That's fucking cool.
That is.
Yeah.
Build me an amplifier out of that.
I love the Angara because there's so much going on with them that we are continuously learning.
Yeah.
Like, their abilities are so cool, and their adaptability, and the fact that so much of their own history is a mystery to them as well.
Yeah.
They're so interesting. I love them so much.
What I love about Andromeda, especially compared to the original trilogy, even though the original trilogy does it well too, is people way smarter than me have done videos. See one Aaron McDonald we referenced earlier, but others as well on YouTube, actual scientists talking about how, BioWare doesn't do everything right, but the way they create this world is very scientifically sound. From the mass relays to this technology, a lot of it is very, very much scientifically sound, and it's clear that people on the staff for these games not only like science fiction, but like science fact and like mixing the two and figuring out how to make it as realistic as possible. Like, someone could play these games and not think about any of this, like, because you don't have to. But the fact that they give you that information, they give you all of these logs, they'll let you explore this. I mean, I still don't feel like we know enough about Quarians and how they actually work. Like, we've learned a lot in the original trilogy, but just the suit itself leaves so many questions. And so, like, I love that continues to happen with other races. Like, I know how Krogan reproduce and how their biology works, but I still don't quite understand it. And that's fascinating to me too, right? Like, all of that kind of stuff. And the Angaran here with this is just another step in that kind of fascination and awesome sci-fi. It's why I'm kind of mad that besides the Ket, they're the only new race. I understand why, but I also am annoyed because they're so good at creating these things that, like, I want more stuff I don't understand and won't understand for another 10 years. Like, I think I'm only now, after having played the OG trilogy so many times, grasping a lot of the alien related stuff, and I still have lots of questions, and I'm not an expert on any level. But yeah, well, thank you for that education, Josh. I appreciate it. It's always fun to watch someone else geek out about something they're passionate about. Like, it's that meme of from the Enter the Spider-Verse of Miles staring at Peter as Peter's talking about something. It's like, that's just me and Frankie with Josh right now. Like, it's
yes.
just, I love seeing
thank you very much. I think about analog circuitry a lot in sci-fi specifically. Like,
yeah.
Don't get me started on the fact that lightsabers apparently don't have any computational components, so those beams of light are controlled by what? A valve? A lens? Oh my god! Anyway.
Yeah. You should watch Yuri Lowenthal, who's a voice actor best known for playing Spider-Man right now, has a show. It's called Orbital Redux, and it's very much, it was shot live on Twitch and then eventually, edited and put on this platform Dust that's free. And it's all feels very analog space, like just a person in a ship with a bunch of levers. Yeah. I'll send you the link to it after the show, but it's like, I mean, everyone listening should check it out, but this seems like specifically your shit, Josh.
Excellent.
All right. Do we have any additional notes, thoughts, opinions?
No, I mean, it's funny. You talk about how, I should, I guess, talk here a little bit about what I thought about Havarl on the whole. It's so funny that to you, Frankie, it felt too confined, whereas to me, after Eos feeling too big and like a little overwhelming, this was like, oh, I can run to all of these points. Perfect. Like, I like open world games a lot, but I've found I have more fatigue for them. So smaller planets like this are a welcome to me. They let me kind of recharge in the same way like an introvert needs to recharge to be an extrovert. Like, I need some straightforward shit to then go big explorer again. So I liked Havarl. And then we spoke about the Angaran, what we thought the reincarnation was. But yeah, I liked the confinement of this. I think if every mission was like this, I would hate it. Like, I think the third Mass Effect goes into that place a little bit, whereas everything becomes kind of a hallway a bit, which is good and bad for whatever reason. I think this was just right for me. And you said it's kind of an outlier, which makes me happy. That means I get this like reprieve before I'm dumpster diving in giant planets again, trying to find a doodad to make a thing work. So
Yeah. That's why I put Havarl before Vold, because Vold is so vast.
Oh.
Like, we're not going to explore all of Vold in our next episode. We're going to do a very specific mission.
Right.
But it's a big mission, and it's a big story mission.
Is Vold the largest planet? I know it's up there, but I think it's the biggest one, right? In terms of just sheer surface area?
I think it is, because Kadara is pretty big, but it's not as big as Vold. Kadara also has, like, a lot of pockets. So, like, it's not big flat space.
right.
Vold has the most big flat space.
No, Vold is like driving through Wyoming in winter. It's ridiculous.
I think, oh, what's that other one? Eladin. Eladin might compete with Vold.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, Vold is just so vast. So I wanted you to have something that was a little more controllable before we go into the vast ice field.
Fair enough. Works for me.
Let's go through our advice for survival in a new galaxy. Josh, since you are the guest, I will let you give your advice first.
So my advice playing this game is to respec early and often, because the amount of abilities you actually get to use once you're in higher levels is pretty comparatively small. So respecing lets you try out a bunch of stuff. I also really like respecing as part of the role-playing experience. Like, oh, you know, I've picked up this new tech expert, and I also got my ass handed to me by this kind of enemy. I'm going to respec and pick up these new powers. Isn't that fun? But mostly I find that it in those middling levels, if I have respect a lot, when I get to the higher levels, I know what I want to do. So when I end up having to respec, so I don't get bored out of my little mind, I also don't just immediately get shot in the face because I don't know what a button does.
That's helpful. I actually, in the first episode, was upset with the profile I chose, and then very quickly was able to access more profiles, and so I'm spec'd more as an adept, but I can already see with the trees that there's more stuff I'm going to want to do, and so I will probably play around with that, so thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think it's the coolest mechanic as far as the skills, is the ability to respec your profiles like that.
Speaking of profiles, Matt, have we talked about how you can build favorite profiles?
Yes, you can favorite certain profiles and stuff. Mm-hmm.
And, like, you know that you can create your own power sets, and you can just switch out between them?
Yep.
Okay, great. Just making sure that you know that. My advice is to not let the sheer number of quests you pick up intimidate you.
Fair enough.
It seems like a lot, but they're usually like, run here, talk to this person. Great, you're done with the quest. Good job. You did great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's funny. I've been making a joke a lot lately that my new kink is ignoring side quests. Because I am the person who is a completionist for a long time, but, like, minor tangent, I've recently become, if you follow me on Twitter at all, I've recently become obsessed with Final Fantasy XIV, which is the MMO, and I at first thought, like other MMOs, I have to do everything, but it turns out no. You can actually level a class very easily by just doing the main quest line, and let me tell you, when I show up to a new town and there are 1,000 exclamation points and I get to pick one and then move the fuck on, it's like... It's gold.
It's like crack.
Yeah.
It's like crack. And, like, I've been playing recently, I picked up Tales of Arise, which is my first Tales game, and it's a big JRPG. And, like, also there, I see a side quest, and I'm like, see ya, sucker. I've got this big important thing to do. And so knowing that here, like, of course, because we're doing it for the podcast, I'm going to do as many side quests as possible. But it's good to know that also I shouldn't, like, get overwhelmed by them, and that I can probably go back or, like, just knock them out really quick.
I really don't think there are any that are time sensitive in the way that they were in Mass Effect 3. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't really think there are any that after a certain point you can't do them.
You can pretty much do them up until before the end of the game.
There is one that you have to do before the final thing. Mm-hmm. It is one you cannot go back and do once you finish the game. But there's only one of those side quests.
Yeah, because once you finish the game, you actually can go and explore the galaxy still.
Yeah.
Like,
there's just one that when you finish the game, if you don't do it, it says you failed this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But don't worry about it. We'll do it. It'll be fine. It will be fine. Okay. So I completely forgot that prior to starting this season, John and I sat down and we wrote our very own Andromeda Ask meme, like we were doing last season. And then we started the season and I completely forgot that it existed. So I'm bringing it up. Josh, will you please pick a character?
Cora.
Cora. Cora's prompt is, what's your favorite flower?
Dane's Rocket. It's a tiny purple flower indigenous to Scotland and parts of England. It is invasive to the United States. In Pennsylvania, it is everywhere, especially in eastern Pennsylvania. And it is gorgeous. You see it a lot in redneck wedding bouquets with baby's breath in clouds with the Dame's Rocket as a wreath in between. It's really nice. I really love it. It's beautiful. It's also great in salads, and you can make a killer steak sauce with it.
It is very pretty. I looked it up.
Awesome. What about you, Frankie? Do you have a favorite flower?
I do. It is the Peruvian lily.
Good choice.
How about you, Matt?
So I'm a sucker for the classics. I really like a rose, but I don't, red roses are my least favorite. I like black roses. I know they have bad juju, but like I like the look of them.
Because you're goth.
Because I'm goth. And emo, more specifically emo goth. But like an orange rose or a yellow rose, like I love the mutations of a rose because especially if you have a bouquet of reds, oranges, yellows, like it looks fiery, and I love that. So yeah, I'm an old school rose guy.
Nice.
You heard it here, folks. If you want to get us flowers, you now know the flowers to get us.
There you go. And you should get men flowers because men should get flowers. That's a stupid stigma that men don't like flowers. It's dumb.
Unless you have cats, then play it safe and don't get them flowers.
Right.
Make them flowers. Get them like cloth flowers or wooden flowers.
Exactly.
It's just cats are allergic to too many things.
It's true.
It's just that's why John and I don't give each other flowers anymore. Stupid cats.
Alrighty. Well, that's it for this episode. Our next episode, we head over to that other aforementioned planet. We go to the massive Vold for a very important mission, and I don't even know what it is yet, but it's very important apparently. I'm sure I do. I just don't remember. It's been 2 weeks since I booted up the game.
We're gonna rescue the Moshai.
Oh, the Moshai. That's right. So join us for that episode. We may or may not have a guest. Who knows? It'll be a surprise for everybody.
We'll find out. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Josh, thank you for coming back. Thank you for joining us in previous seasons. Thank you for being our DM and launching our forever long Blasto adventure. Why don't you tell folks a little bit where they can find you online and find your work online?
Cool, yeah. Thank you for having me. You can find me at swords_and_stupidity on Instagram. That's where you're going to find my fight choreography stuff and my stage combat stuff and my sword stuff. You can find me making swords and selling swords if you're interested in that sort of thing. We also do cosplay, armory, equipment-y things at False Edge Armory, Facebook, Instagram. I think we have a Tumblr. I don't know. I have to ask Margot. And then we are about to launch another thing. Look for the Closet Jaw. And that will be craft goods that don't fall under swords. So if you want to own a Josh Coslar made guitar one day, that is the path by which you will travel. It might be up by the time you watch this. It might not. Who knows?
Awesome.
Exciting.
Well, thank you.
Well, if you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod at Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or you can send us an email, reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at iHoardLibraries and Matt at DJ_Stormageddon. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher if you can. You can now rate us on Spotify. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
Super simple on Spotify. They don't even ask you to write anything. You just have to listen to like 30 seconds of an episode and then you hit a star. So please go do that.
Preferably 5 of them.
Yes. I mean, we're depending on the day, we're 3 to 5 star humans, but the podcast is definitely a 5-star podcast.
3-star humans, 5-star podcast.
We are members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. You can visit Certain POV to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server and join in on the conversation. We have a whole section for Andromeda spoilers that I am avoiding until the end of this season, but you can go there and talk about what you think I might do, make predictions, talk about me behind my back, all of that good stuff.
Speaking of things that Matt might do, don't forget that we have a survey in place. Is bit.ly/storminandromeda. At that survey, you can guess who his favorite companions are, who his romance option is going to be, who he's upset that he can't romance.
There'll be one.
I know there will be. That's why it's a question. Who is he torn between? What his favorite planet is. And also, if you have any, like, highly specific predictions, you can also drop them in there. Each guess is worth a certain number of points. If you're right, you earn points. Whoever earns the most points is going to win some kind of fan pack. We'll figure it out. We'll probably t-shirts, probably stuff that I make, probably some previous items from Fandom Corner, stuff like that. So go ahead, fill out that survey. I think we're going to put an end to that survey after Act 1, which I think will be after we finish side quests on Havarl and Volt. I think that sounds right?
Yep. Based on what you told me off air, that sounds right.
Yeah. So you have a couple more episodes to get that in. I'll announce when it's officially closing. You have a couple more episodes, so do the thing. Do the thing.
Yes.
I love seeing everybody's responses and seeing what everybody thinks of Matt. It's hilarious.
Great. Wonderful.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Look, you are nothing if not consistent.
That's true. That is true. But see, I didn't have a consistency until I became consistent, because while I've been yelling about how I should be able to romance Stain as Male Shep forever, Caden was a new experience. I came to the church of Kenneth Shepard, but it took me a while to get there.
Anyway, if you're enjoying our Andromeda shenanigans, then you should catch me over on Archives of the Dragon every other Monday, where my spouse, Professor John Bradley Lestrange, the history wizard himself, leads us through the wild unknown outside the Helios cluster in Andromeda. You can find that at twitch.tv/Archives of the Dragon.
Everything I do you can find at www.djstormageddon.com. I'm hoping to spin up streaming again, going back to either Nier Automata or starting Disco Elysium, 2 games that I've wanted to play for a long, long time. But also the thing I want to push to the forefront is I do an interview series I've referenced here a few times called CPOV Autographs. It was originally under my old website, Crash Chords. I've interviewed a ton of really cool people. As of when this comes out, I'll have just done my year in review, where I talk about some of my favorite things from this past year. But I would love for you to go check that out, write it a rating and a review. I've had some really cool guests, some who have been on the show. Frankie was an episode, I think, early last year. So yeah, just definitely go check it out. I'm sure when Josh has more to promote about his show, I'll have him on. Like, it's a great fun chat. It's really casual. It's just kind of like hanging out by the fire with a couple of folks. So I would love for you to go check it out. It's at certainpov.com, but it's also on every podcast platform imaginable. And if it's not on your podcast platform that you use, tell me, and then it will be, because that's what I usually do when I find out it's not there.
That's the power he wields.
It is. It's true. I'm Mr. Podcast. Don't call me.
Vast.
Don't call me Mr. Podcast.
They call him Mr. Podcast.
God damn it! I hate you both. Clowns.
We went
all
in
of
two
you.
different directions, but we were still right.
Clowns.
I went to school to be a clown. That's Dr. Professor Clown to you.
Lest we forget, we'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow, Caden Alenko. But it's possible Caden is going to be ousted as our favorite marshmallow. Jaw's in town.
That's true, and he's pretty marshmallow.
There's a new marshmallow
We do
in
love
town.
marshmallows that shoot lightning, don't we?
Yeah, we do. It's true.
We do. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank Carter's husband, a.k.a. the incredible Case Aiken, for developing more amazing shirt designs that you can find through certainpov.com or on Teespring.
See, the joke is that we don't say his name.
I know, but I feel bad.
So then the joke is over now. Matt ruined the joke.
What else is new?
We'd like to thank David Boyle for redesigning our logo like a champ. And finally, thank you to JT Music and Andrea Storm Caden for our new theme music. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm Josh Coslar. Good luck, Pathfinders.
Life is a mystery. Everyone must stand alone. I hear you call my name, and it feels like home.
Ryder also meets the Rokar, a faction of Angaran extreme.
It's okay, you can try again.
And
Frankie has died.
I was taken out by a Rokar agent. Anyway.
Hi, I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon, and I'm the host of CPOV Autographs at certainpov.com. It is a bi-weekly interview series where I interview folks from all over the arts, from writers to comedians to magicians to musicians, even actors, historians, podcasters, pretty much anyone who's willing to chat with me for a little bit. If you like interesting conversations with even more interesting people, go to certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, music is life, and life is good.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.